Today marks the beginning of Syria's third year embroiled in civil war. The devastation has led to over 100,000 people being killed. 2.5 million Syrians have been forced to leave the country and seek refuge elsewhere.
And children have been horrifically impacted as well. More than 10,000 have lost their lives, and those that survive have had little access to education for the last 3 years, while some others have been the victims of sexual exploitation. I met with the GCC representative for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees and asked him about the psychological trauma these children have endured.
These children have witnessed things that no children should ever witness. They've gone through an incredible amount of trauma. So it's not just simply putting them into a classroom, it's dealing with what they've gone through. Then there's the whole aspect of adolescence, and if they're not doing anything, what do they turn towards? How can one control that? And that's a different angle that some people also very much focus on and think of security issues and things like that that might come from idle youth with a great deal of frustration and nothing to do. The initial refugees that moved 3 years ago thought that they were going away for a month, 2 months, a little short period of time, then they'll go back to normality, that something would happen, this thing would get resolved. It hasn't. And unfortunately at this time, no one is very optimistic either of a quick resolution to this.
What is daily life like in these camps?
The reality is that a great deal of children have become breadwinners for their families. They're trying to support their families. So there's a lot of child labor that's there, which means children are not going to school. There is now a great attempt by all of us to try to make sure that kids are going back to school, that they have the opportunity to do that. To do that, you have to deal with the whole of the situation. It's not just providing education programs, it's dealing with what keeps children out of school also. And that comes to the reality, unfortunately, that the impact is also very strongly felt by host communities. So the brunt in terms of where the people are is still very much in the region and the neighboring countries. What we're hoping and what we're asking for is for other countries, some of our traditional resettlement countries in Europe, in North America, Australia, etc., to be also helping in terms of accepting some numbers. So there will be a push towards that as well.
Now, we're hearing a lot of reports coming out of these refugee camps that many women, many children are being exploited sexually. How concerned are you about this situation?
We're very, very, very concerned about the reports that have been there of sexual and gender-based violence and exploitation that's been happening. So there's a great deal of emphasis on what we call protection issues to try to increase the protection space that's there through safe areas, through counseling, through presence, through lighting even in camps and urban situations. A lot of it takes putting a lot of trained personnel in there also to deal with these situations. So that is a huge emphasis, I think, certainly for UNHCR and our partners on this. We're hoping to have a conference actually here in the UAE later this year. It'll be in Sharjah. You may be aware that we have as our eminent advocate, Sheikha Jawahar, the First Lady of Sharjah. And she is behind organizing a conference on child protection.
Now, there's huge numbers when we talk about the number of displaced people from Syria. How accepting have other countries been of bringing them into their daily lives?
At the moment, I'm afraid a lot is closed. One of our greatest concerns right now is that almost a quarter of the persons that are trying to reach Europe across the Mediterranean by ship, by boats, by rickety boats, that are drowning, that are losing their lives in the process. Almost a quarter are Syrian now. And there, as we see in all sorts of news reports, etc., it's not terribly welcoming. So that's what we're trying to change.